All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, welcome everyone. In case you don't know me, my name is Ranpal Gill. I'm the communications manager for the Rubin Construction project. And we're going to go over some First Light initiatives, both on the communications and I'll hand over to my EPO colleagues for talking about the EPO initiatives. Reminder of the code of conduct. Any violations, please. I'm also one of the people on the list. You can contact us with any issues that you might observe or experience yourself. Also be mindful of people that are wishing to wear masks. There have been some cases of COVID. Please respect everyone's wishes. And if you have any symptoms that are flu-like, it's best that you take a test and possibly stay away. Respect people's wishes for how they want to be greeted. And it's Thursday, so possibly some of us are feeling a little bit tired. So our social battery might be getting a little drained. Keep that in mind when talking to people. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what work has happened so far. We started some discussions at the Project and Community Workshop in 2023. So we're going to talk a little bit about the background of what's happened since then. Some of the initiatives that are actually in play right now, both from the communication side and media facing, but also from the EPO side and public facing. And there'll be time for discussion at the end. I suggest that we do the discussion right at the end when you've heard from communications and EPO, because it's quite possible there'll be gaps in what I'm saying that are filled in by the initiatives that are happening within the public EPO domain. So as I said last year at the PCW 2023, we started discussing First Light, and we had a few boxes where you could send in your ideas or suggestions. We took a lot of those on board, and they have been incorporated in many of the plans that we've been working on since that meeting. There's a few links here. This slide deck is linked in the session page, and there's some links here that you can click on to see more about what happened in 2023. So I'm going to be going over things that have happened so far. Let's start with organization. So there is an overall coordination that's happening. So you'll see some of these acronyms. I've tried to explain them here for you. So the Rubin Celebrations Organizing Committee is an overarching looking at all celebrations and First Light initiatives. And then there's one very specifically looking at First Light and the media events, social media, both public facing and media facing. There's a group working on the images specifically, communications group, EPO group, social media. This is by no means exhaustive. There are other groups, there's sonification, et cetera, and other initiatives going on as well. And importantly, making sure that we are interacting with stakeholders. So NSF, DOE, Aura, both in the US and in Chile, SLAC, NOIR the LSST Discovery Alliance, and planned interactions with the community. So either directly through the groups, we're making sure that we are linking into the stakeholders. That includes science collaborations, in-kind contributors, international partners, etc., others that we may not even have thought of yet. Okay, this is a big list of people. This is so you have some names, maybe people that you can get in contact with. Again, not an exhaustive list. There's some acronyms there of the groups that people belong to. Some people wear various hats and belong to various groups. It's not all captured in this slide here. Just to mention again that there is sonification and social media as well happening, as in being planned and talked about, and those are not necessarily listed here. Still talking about background. I want everyone to be aware that there are multiple things happening. In this session, we're really focusing on First Light, but I want you to know that there is an event that's going to happen for the Simone telescope naming. Simone gave a donation of 20 million to get us started, and the agreement was that the telescope would be named after the Simone family. And that's an event, a very intimate and family kind of level event that will be happening up in Chile on the summit sometime in October. System First Light, which is what we're talking about, is supposed to be around April of next year. It's coming right at us. and is a largely media-driven event. So that's media-focused, media-facing, developing all sorts of resources, etc. And of course, there will be a social media element to that as well as a potential day-long event associated with that. That would be focused that would be a way for kind of the involved partners, institutes, etc., to also be able to have a physical way to celebrate this splash. And then dedication is the end of construction, beginning of operations, celebrating this decades-long project that has culminated in Rubin Observatory. That would be dignitaries, staff, etc., quite a large event that would be based in Chile. This is a cartoon timeline developed by Steve Ritz. Thank you, Steve. It kind of tries to plot everything in one place so that you can kind of add a snapshot, see the events, the various milestones that lead us to the final image, the momentum building, which I'll be talking about, some more various science releases, just all of the things that are planned, kind of starts in the past and goes up to First Light. So some of this stuff you'll be hearing about some more from me. Okay, so what are we doing for the media? To plan all of this starts with having some very distinct goals. So the goals are to capture the media's attention, both in the US and Chile. I'm hoping for worldwide as well, but the goal is US and Chile. To be able to demonstrate what's so unique and what will be that potential going forward. You know, we've got to look beyond First Light. So this is a 10-year survey that's going to start, and there's going to be lots going on going forward. And importantly, to make sure that we acknowledge the funding agencies, because by seeing that the taxpayers' money is going to good use and producing great opportunities going forward, it's very important to be able to highlight that. So outside of these specific media goals, we have some goals to do with the celebration part of this as well. So like I said earlier, successful completion of this huge project that has been running for decades. Excitement at the fact that the survey is starting and everything that's to come after that has happened. And then really engaging with the public to make sure that Rubin's name is really getting out there and that there will be discoveries coming for the next 10 years. On this slide, the green check marks are things that have already happened or we're already working on. The ones that don't have green check marks are planned work. So developing key messages that align with those goals that I described to you, that's work in progress right now. There have been a lot of campaigns to do with that are both press releases and social media and information on various channels to do with the science releases. So we've had 6 of those so far. The point is to have momentum building. So we've been working to raise the profile of Rubin, to get Rubin noticed out there in the world. I'll talk a little bit later about how we are measuring that that is actually happening. So that in addition to the 6 science releases, hopefully you'll notice the press releases and social media campaigns around the camera, which was ready at SLAC, the M1, M3 coating that happened and the beautiful shiny mirror that came out, and the arrival of the camera up on the summit. Coming very soon is the M2 installation, which went on today, the Simone naming, and essentially, the full system ready is what the Simone naming indicates. It means that the M2 is on, ComCam is on, and the M1, M3 is on, and we have a fully functioning system that we have proved is functioning. And then, of course, Rubin First Light, which is what we're talking about today, and ensuring that we have, an awesome images, video, etc., products that go with that are accessible. So like I mentioned before, we have working on sonification to make it accessible, but also alt text. We're working on a media resource kit, which will include some elements for specifically for social media as well. We have ideas of providing information to the media on a toolkit that would give tips for writing. This might be a workshop or something that we can deliver to them, or a recording. We're still working on that. And then the joint press conference between NSF and DOE is also in the works, being planned. So again, with momentum building, we've been pretty much inundated with requests for people to come to the summit, all manner of people. But some very high profile ones. We've had Netflix. Just 2 weeks ago, National Geographic were there. So there's a lot of interest that is helping us with our momentum building. The Chilean newspapers were also up there. Reporters came up, and then there was some news that was both in Chile and actually, I think, in The Guardian in the UK related to that. Very soon, we want more people to come to this, more high-profile visits to the summit. So working on an initiative right now to solicit expressions of interest to visit the summit by the media. So we will be trying to organize some visits early next year and get the media up there so that they can start preparing their stories, start taking the video footage, photos, etc., so that they could put out stories beforehand, and that's fine. That would help us with our momentum building. Or they might just hold on to it until they see that our embargoed press release comes out, and then they decide what messaging it is that they want for their audiences. And just to specify that expression of interest will be worldwide, and it will include Chile. And we're doing a specifically the Spanish version of all of that communication. We've also had educational visits. We've had the Smithsonian there. We've had masterclass, and more requests coming in all the time for that. So people that come to the summit, you might think, how is that momentum building? It is very organic and it is very small. But what happens is when people have been to the summit, they get so excited that they go home and they tell all their friends and their relatives about what a great observatory that's going to come online soon. And so even that little touch point, that's all helpful, and that's all momentum building for us. So I would say that we've been really quite successful so far with our momentum building, in that we've seen an uptick in requests for interviews. So we have media that write to us. Every press release, every social media post has contacts in it, and people find a way to contact us or the contacts that are listed in their press release, and they write to us and say, hey, we're really interested in AI. We're really interested in Planet 9. Who do you have that we can talk to specifically about this? And we've seen this really gradual increase. So that is an indicator that we have been quite successful with what we're doing at the moment. This means, this is like an indicator, at least to me, that we may well be inundated with requests for interviews. And so what we're thinking right now is that we better start collecting some names of people that are interested in talking to the media on record. It might be on camera. So this form here, if you are interested, and this is for anyone, this is wherever you're based, if you think you are interested in being someone that we could contact to refer you to someone in the media that has a reporter or a journalist that is requesting an interview, then please fill in this form. Also coming up in January is the AAS meeting. So that's literally just before First Light. And then there'll be the AAS meeting that happens in the summer just after First Light. And all of these continue to get us the exposure that we want. Remembering that we don't just want to be a one-time big splash. We want this to be sustainable. We want to be in the media constantly after First Light. I forgot to mention, influencers, getting the same level of engagement and treatment as the media. Influencers help us to reach a different audience base, which is very important for us. It's that younger generation. They are the future, and we do want them to be engaged. So you'll hear more about that from the EPO team, but we're making sure we engage with those content creators so that they can also prepare their materials. I talked about the science releases. So there have been 6 that are out so far. I believe that we have received requests to visit the summit, received requests for interview based on the content of some of these. And there are a few more planned to come, and sustainable communication into the future. And this is one of those. Okay, so the title is Day of Big Splash or +1. So this is kind of, ideas are still coming up on this. The idea is that the press release would go out to the media embargoed, and there would be a media advisory as well to say that we're going to have this media day. And you could envision having a physical event at your institute, and a physical event where your head of your department or your dean might open up the event. Then you might patch in of the live event happening in DC with the joint DOE NSF press conference. And then you might have some more local activities. What we're thinking is that we would like to be able to provide you, or the relevant people in your institute who could make this happen, a kind of skeleton or template plan that would help you to then develop your own physical event. Initially, we were thinking that the media, that the First Light event would be focused purely on media, and a lot of effort is going into that. But people want to celebrate, and people want to be around other people who have made this a success. And so this is where the idea came about, to try to create an event that you could kind of plug into as part of your own physical event, if that was something that your institute was interested in. I already mentioned that we're looking for volunteers to be media contacts. I'm repeating it here, but pretty much, we would refer you to, if we get a request, we would then find the right person for that request and refer you for an interview with the media. We're hoping to be super successful and have lots and lots of those requests to deal with. We want to build a diverse group of people that includes people from the science collaborations, because we don't just want our project leaders to be the ones that we're pinging to request for interviews. We're looking at creating some kind of training packet that would ensure consistent messaging. So, it would be key messages, talking points, etc., just to make sure everyone's on the same page. You would be required to go through this. We don't know exactly what it looks like yet, but you would be required to go through this before we would refer to an interview, or on the record interview, or on camera interview. So again, this is the Google form here. All right, bit of color coding on this slide here. Black means it would be something that you would go away and do. Teal means it's something we are hoping to be able to deliver to you. So I mentioned the skeleton, like Big Splash Day. We would hope to be able to give you like some kind of agenda, skeleton, template plan that you could use and then customize for your own needs. Then you'd be able to patch in to certain bits that are happening at in a physical location. If there are enough of them, this would be a great map to make, to put pins on, so that anyone could look to see where's the closest event to me. Remember, this is an institutional level thing. The public side of this you'll hear about later. So if there are enough of these, we'll create a form, and you'll be able to tell us about your event, and we would be able to host that information on a page somewhere, centralized page, where you could then direct people to say, hey, you can look to see where the closest one for you is. Now, planning your press releases, everybody has their own angle, their own contribution, their own bit that they want to highlight. So the plan would be that we'd be able to share an embargoed press release, the text, not the graphics, not necessarily the images, videos, etc. So the embargoed press release would have sections that you could use quotes that you could remove to put your own quotes from your own institute or your own information, specifically pointing at areas where your institute's contribution was. So that's something that we're hoping we can provide. Media resource kit is being worked on. It will have a social media element to it as well. You could take that, use it in its entirety, or you could take bits of it, however it interested you, and enhance it with some very specific areas that are more meaningful for what the contribution was from your institute. So put your PR or media folks at your institute in touch with us, and we can start liaising with them and start having conversations about @maybe what their ideas are and what our ideas are, to try to see if we can align. So the email address here, communications-team@list.lsst.org, would be a good one to write to. And so I talked about volunteer opportunities. This was for scientists and the community to have opportunity to be interviewed by the media on record, but there'll be a separate, if you're interested in doing outreach, then APO will be talking a bit more about that later on. Okay, we're going to move on to talk a little bit about what is happening on the images side. And for that, I'm going to hand you over to Steve.
Very quickly, thanks, Ranpal. You've probably noticed, although it went by very fast, so I'll go into a couple of the details. We have a really great group of people working on image production, and it's both image and video. It involves people from across the project. We have people from data management with a lot of image processing expertise, people from commissioning, EPO, and also very importantly, experts in producing images for the public, because this is public relations event and we need images that are really stunning and capture the interest and excitement of the general public, not just the astronomers and physicists. And so integrated completely in that group is Noir Lab CEE, who just have a tremendous amount of experience, and we're working together as an integrated team. And I have to say that's going really well. The approach has been kind of three-phased. One is to do prototyping and mock-ups, because everyone has in their mind various ideas for how the images ought to look. And it isn't until you actually have an image in front of you that you can have a sensible, productive discussion. It's been mainly using HSC data that's been passed through the Rubin pipelines. That's extremely useful also just to understand and scope the workflow, but also what support we need, what sort of technical capabilities are going to be needed to push these images out to serve them to the world. So getting that workflow all sorted out is very good. Very important, obviously, because we're not going to have a lot of time when the actual first light images are available. I would say we're nearing convergence on all of that. There are a lot of moving parts. The other thing is what sort of color versus intensity choices. That's a simplistic way to describe it. Of course, we needed to put it on a PowerPoint slide or Google slide. And we want, of course, the images to be visually engaging to the public, but we'd also like not to, for example, wash out color information with intensity. And we think Rubin has something to offer here and do something really great. And so that's been very useful for us doing the prototyping. And we're pretty close. And the idea then is to use ComCam images on sky data. And we're not sure whether we'll be releasing a ComCam image. That's a high-level decision with stakeholders on the project. But it seems to us this is a great opportunity to be a dry run at the very least. We can try everything out end to end, find the snags, fix all of the problems, go through the review process, and also go through the whole process of getting buy-in from stakeholders and so on, making sure the messages are good. We'll review that and then decide whether or not to release the image, but we'll win just by making that effort. And then, of course, there's the system first light images. Um, we have talked a lot about, and we've had a lot of inputs, thank you very much, about targets. And as written there, we obviously want to feature what only Rubin could do. It does have to be science forward. Just saying we have a wide field of view, we can see really deeply, really quickly. The kind of thing gets us all excited, but it's not something you can explain and get people excited generally. And so it is going to be science capability forward. But we also don't want to do something that another observatory has done or could have done better. This is about Rubin and what's special about Rubin. And you realize right away that the dynamic aspects are essential for us. And we've understood that. At the same time, we want to produce at least a set of images that, you know, it could go above the fold in the New York Times and print media as well. And so we're considering that whole range from social media to print media and online experience for the general public. I think I've already said all of this, so I think I can hand it back to Ranpal. I'm happy to have more discussion at the end.
Okay, final slide for me. So how do we know if we are successful at the end of the day? I already said that I personally feel that our momentum building is bearing fruit through having an uptick in the number of requests for site visits and the number of requests from journalists and reporters. But generally, so the thoughts are, if we are on the front page of at least in the US and Chile, that is a success factor. That's one demographic, one audience. We want to make sure we're reaching more audiences. So trending on social media, that would be a real plus, giving us that hint that we are reaching the younger generation as well. Is a high profile person talking about us? I think that would be another indicator that we got the Rubin news out there. Rubin is the Google search image of the day. What you see down there is JWST was the search image of the day that they launched. We've got to figure out how we can get there on the day of our big splash. If you went and asked your neighbor the day after the big splash, do you know what Rubin is? Hopefully they would have seen the news. And then I've said this a few times, this has to be a sustained momentum approach. We don't just want to be a big splash for one day and then nobody ever hears about us again. This has to keep on happening. We have to come up with a strategy where we appear in the news frequently and we're not just forgotten about after that one big day. And making sure that NSF, DOE, and the stakeholders are really clearly acknowledged. And that's just by, you know, scanning a report or a newspaper article, and NSF DOE is at a minimum mentioned in there once. That would also be success. So these are all the things we're thinking about that we will use to build our metrics to see how we've done at the end of all of these efforts. All right, I'm going to hand over to Steph for talking about what the public-facing initiatives are that we've been working on.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Stephanie Deppa, astronomy content strategist for the Rubin Education and Public Outreach team, or EPO. And so I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have already for you, what we are working on currently, and how you can help. And I've put a QR code here if you want to grab these slides. This will just be for the EPO section of the slides. The full slide deck is linked from the session agenda, where you can also get the slides that Ranpal just presented. Okay, so we are EPO. We do education and public outreach. We like engagement, so I'm going to engage you in this presentation. Please navigate to the QR code or enter this URL in your browser. I'm going to do the thing where I tell you to take out your devices during a talk, which is usually a no-no, but in this case, we're doing it. Just full disclosure, this is my husband's account because he has a fancy account at Cornell that is unlimited. So if you get a prompt to register, you don't need to register, just tap skip for now. Okay, so first icebreaker, we want to know where you are currently based. We'll give it just a few seconds, and we can really see the map starting to populate here. Unsurprisingly, there's a lot in the US since we are currently at a US meeting taking place in a US time zone. But this just demonstrates how widespread we are, how global this project is, and how global our education and public outreach efforts need to be accordingly. Okay, so next one. What is your connection to Rubin? How do you should be able to choose up to 3 options, but we want to know who you are, how you're affiliated with the project. I don't know if we're going to get, maybe this is the wrong slide for the results, but we'll give it a couple seconds. Okay. So just to set the stage, the EPO team, a number of us are here at the conference, but this is kind of our org chart for formality reasons. Our head of EPO is Alan Strauss. Communications manager is Kristen Metzger. And then we have a number of different people who are all very interdisciplinary, diverse skill sets that are all working together to create multiple components of this cohesive program that falls under the education and public outreach sphere. And so we have 4 key identified audiences that we are trying to reach with our efforts. The first is the science interested public. We're also trying to reach educators with formal education investigations that teachers can use in their classrooms. We're also creating content and making connections with science centers, museums, and planetariums. And then finally, if you went to Claire Higgs' fabulous session about citizen science, you'll know that EPO is leading a lot of the citizen science efforts within Rubin. And so here's just a brief overview of all the people on the team who are here this week. The session's at the end of the week, so you have a limited amount of time to come talk to us still. But here is all of the people who are here. So Alan is the person in charge, does all things EPO. Kristen does all things words. I do all things social media. Fernanda Urrutia is our Chile coordinator, does all things Chile. And Claire is our outreach scientist, the liaison to the science community, and handles all things citizen science. So about EPO, our mission statement, which you may have seen a few times over the course of this week already, but just to drive it home again, we provide online data-driven experiences that are accessible and approachable, adding real-world context and opportunities for people to engage with Rubin Observatory and explore the universe. So really, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is get new people interested in astronomy who haven't maybe felt that astronomy is accessible to them before. And we have to reach them in new and varied ways. Because we're trying to get new people, we have to try new ways to reach them. So we heard a lot about media and efforts going toward the media. So I wanted to take a moment just to make sure we're all clear about what the difference between media relations and public outreach is. So the EPO team, we focus primarily on public outreach. We don't do so much with media relations. So media relations is really about leveraging the reach and the impact of existing and traditional media. So this is news outlets, journalists, print media, these kinds of things. And so in media relations efforts, the audience for those efforts is primarily journalists, press, news outlets. Typically you are doing interviews on the record, on camera, and the information goes out via press releases. And the outcomes of those efforts are usually news articles in these various outlets or news segments via video on TV or various other video content. Whereas for the public, public outreach, we are bypassing the media as the gatekeeper to the information and trying to reach the public directly. And so our audience as public outreach for public outreach efforts is the public themselves. We are not talking to journalists, we are trying to reach the general public themselves. So the channels by which you do this are a little bit different. One of them is social media, which we've heard a lot about. I do social media, so I talk about it all the time. If you want to talk social media, come find me. It also includes website content, the things that you will find in the website articles on rubinobservatory.org, for example, as well as other partner websites. This can also include in-person efforts like public talks or events at a library or a bar talk like Astra on Tap. This can also include sort of less formal interviews. So for podcasts or anything like this, where the audience of that medium is the public. And so the outcomes of many public outreach efforts are two-way engagement with the audience that you're trying to reach, the public. And it also can result in grassroots events and participation. There's more than is just what is listed on this slide, but this is kind of a brief summary to try to make sure we're all clear on media relations versus public outreach. So the rest of this will focus primarily on public outreach, but a lot of the resources and things that we will talk about can also be applied to your media relations efforts as well. Okay, so we've already seen this slide in the previous talk, but a lot of the goals that public outreach is trying to accomplish are kind of broader. We are trying to celebrate the successful completion of Rubin Observatory, inspire excitement for the start of science operations, and generate excitement in a broad and potentially global public audience. So you'll notice that the bolded words here are really trying to convey a lot of emotion. We're trying to connect with the public and like generate some emotional connection with what we are presenting to them. And then also trying to connect the human aspect, the people behind this giant project. People connect with human stories. They don't connect with stories of data or machines or computers. They connect with stories of people. And so that is a lot of what is driving what we are trying to do. Okay, we have another interactive activity. And this question is, what word comes to your mind when you think about Rubin First Light? I appreciate the smiley face. Okay. As this continues to go, you'll notice that some of the largest words that are really becoming prominent are those words of emotion: excitement, amazing, exciting, wow, yay. A lot of words about emotion and that kind of emotional connection. And so again, I think we're all on the same page with that we are all very excited. We want to convey that excitement and really make sure that that is a central message when it comes to communicating about this incredible observatory. Okay, so we're gonna give everyone a visual break for a second. Thank you for those responses. I think that was a really great demonstration of how excited we all are for this. And I think it is our jobs to convey that excitement to everybody else that we interact with. Okay, so along those lines, what do we have for you to do that? We have a set of resources that we have been compiling over the past few years. The first and most important of which is our website, rubinobservatory.org. This is your one-stop shop to everything Rubin. Everything that I mention from here on out can also be found on rubinobservatory.org, including our gallery. And so this is a compilation of kind of the best images that we have that continue to come in. They have all of the associated metadata that you would want, including captions and alternative text in English and in Spanish. And so those are freely available for you to use and download and share as widely as you would like. And lots more. So if you're following along on slides on your own computer, you'll notice there's lots of links. So highly recommend browsing these slides later too. We have lots of graphics, illustrations, and renderings for you to use in any of your outreach efforts. We have press releases and other news that will regularly come out on rubinobservatory.org/news. We have short animated videos about Rubin and its science. And those are free for you to use at youtube.com/rubinobservatory. If you need a downloadable option, wait just a second, I'll mention the link for that. But I did want to shout out our newest video that we just put out, which is explaining the light path of the mirrors and why we have a 2-in-1 primary mirror. And so you can grab the links to those videos also on YouTube in English and in Spanish. For the developers in the audience who are building UI tools, we have a React UI component library that gives you the styling for different UI components. You can find demos to each of those components at that link there. And then finally, the newest addition to our EPO team is our Chilean liaison or coordinator based in Chile, Fernanda Urrutia. So if you are in Chile, wanting to do outreach, she is a great person to get in contact with. And then here is the link to remember. If you only remember one link, well, 2 links, remember rubinobservatory.org and ls.st/resources. That is where you can find all of these things. And finally, a call for you, if you have graphics, images, resources, slides, whatever you have that you would like to share that you use in your own outreach and that you would want to make available for other people to use, please upload them to ls.st/share if they are something that you think would be useful for the community at large. Okay, so those are a lot of the resources that we have. One of the big efforts that we are making is to create two-way dialogue on social media. So social media is a big focus for the EPO team. It's why I was hired. And our primary goals with social media are to familiarize people with Rubin, showcase the people who work on the observatory, and get people excited about astronomy, and particularly the science that Rubin will do once it comes online. So to do this, we have, I prioritize succinct captions with engaging hooks to kind of draw people in right from the start. We have dynamic videos or posts, photos or videos that include some sort of wow factor. And as much as I kind of hate it, we do capitalize on trends. We try to, but really only the relevant ones that we can build on. We don't want to overdo it. We don't want to become that cringy organizational account that tries to be cool, because we are cool. But primarily people are on social media to be entertained. So let's entertain them. We also, again, really want to capitalize on this unique two-way conversation that social media enables. So we really do try to engage with comments, do collaborations with people on social media, and engage in meaningful dialogue across platforms. In particular, I did want to shout out the rising popularity of video content, particularly short form vertical video content. So that is something that we are very much aware of and prioritizing, particularly on the social media efforts. And then also making versions of the videos and things that we produce available as social media, well, available with social media aspect ratios. So like if people need a vertical video, we will have vertical video versions of the content that we're putting out. So on the right, you just see some examples of some of the posts that we have. And then these are our handles across all platforms if you want to follow us on any or all of your favorite platforms. And then moving to First Light momentum building in particular on social media. Again, social media is a crucial tool for engaging the public directly. It's one of the only venues where we can really have conversation one-on-one, well, many on ones in some cases, directly with the broader public. And so toward the end and also toward building momentum around First Light, we have come up with a couple of hashtags that will really define the First Light social media efforts. And these hashtags were, well, there's the version in English and then the version in Spanish, but these hashtags are really meant to encompass what Rubin is and what it's going to do. in a memorable short phrase. And so when you are talking on social media about Rubin Observatory, I really encourage you to use hashtag capture the cosmos as the hashtag to bring attention to Rubin. And then in Spanish, the version is capturar el cosmos. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about some of the existing and ongoing efforts as it pertains to social media. We have a lot of videos and photos and collages, etc., available for use again at that same ls.st/resources link. You can find a lot of those there. And then in our past news releases, we've also provided social media ready assets along with the traditional press assets as well. In terms of efforts, we are putting out regular construction updates on social media. Between that and the biweekly news digest is where you will probably find most of the updates about or that are happening with the observatory. Another effort that we are really prioritizing is outreach to high visibility creators. So what you would typically refer to as influencers, but we have a group of people who have responded very positively, who are engaged, who are interested in the observatory, and who have large followings with different audiences that we can reach with our own channels. And so I'm excited to continue building those collaborations and to reach more people that way as well. We have Spanish translations on all of our Instagram content. We have some character limit concerns with other platforms, but if you want our social media content in Spanish, Instagram is a place to do it. And another effort that I've been starting is takeovers by Rubin scientists, primarily on Instagram. So if that's something that you're interested in, please reach out to me. I'm starting to really ramp those up. And finally, in the works, toward First Light, we'll have more graphics and videos ready to use. We're constantly adding to that ls.st/resources link. And then we'll also have social media kits for important milestones. So the first one we created was for the LSST camera arrival. You can see a couple of screenshots of what that looked like there. But this is a PDF download that is the one-stop shop to everything you need to know for social media for whatever milestone or event or result is happening. So we plan to produce these for all of the major milestones coming up, and then we'll continue doing them. But yeah, those are a really good place. Those will be a really good place if you are posting on social media to grab the key messages and the photo or video assets for whatever event or milestone. Toward First Light, strategic planning and producing content for dedicated First Light campaigns is really starting to ramp up now. So keep an eye out for that. You'll see a lot more posts coming out in the coming months with that hashtag capture the cosmos. And then the other effort is creating content for you all to share on your own social media channels. So graphics, photos, videos that are ready to use, messages that you can use to promote Rubin Observatory on your own social media accounts, if that's something you want to do. And then of course, much more than can fit on a single slide. Okay, so that was a lot about social media. Now back to the rest of the EPO team. We have more in the works for you aside from social media. Primarily what we're looking at and working on are more assets for you to use for outreach talks in particular. So that includes quick facts, infographics, images, videos, animations, things like that that you can include in talks that you are giving in your local communities or online. So keep an eye out for those. Again, those will all appear on ls.st/resources as they become available. And on the day of the big splash, we are starting to envision what the website homepage will look like. I don't have anything to show about that just yet, but just know that the Rubin Observatory homepage will look very special on the day of the first images release. And talks plans for that are beginning now. And finally, this is a working title, but we are also envisioning on the EPO side a massively online celebration event that is primarily for the public. And again, this would happen on Media Splash Day, maybe a day later, something, again, similar timelines as what Ranpal mentioned. This would be separate from the press conference. This would be something that we would need to talk about how to fit into the whole schedule of the day or when it would happen. But we really do feel that it is important to have an event that is specifically for the public that will focus on conveying the emotion behind like the excitement behind all of the images from Rubin, then looking forward to science from the observatory. We want to highlight the people and celebrate the completion. So this would be a separate event from the public. Again, we're very early discussions, still kind of in the idea phase. And there's a lot of talk that needs to happen with how this will fit into the larger schedule of the release day. But this is something that we are really thinking about now. And goals for the event would be to inspire awe and wonder, introduce Rubin's capabilities to the world, invoke a sense of global human connection, engage the public directly, generate excitement, and celebrate completion. So, as I mentioned, this is currently in very early planning phases. We are kind of envisioning it as a show with segments. And those segments will be designed to tell the story of Rubin Observatory and explain the images, explain the science that they're demonstrating, and showcase the people and look forward to the upcoming decade. So for this particular event, what you can do in advance, get in touch with your local institutions. What we're thinking for this primarily is science centers, libraries, planetariums, any kind of like public facing institution. And if you're interested, organize a local accompanying event to this massively online celebration event. Closer to the big day, which the date will come soon. We won't know the date for a while, but closer to the day, we're envisioning this as a live streamed event. So there will be a link that you can share with friends and family, and also share on social media to make sure that people can tune in all around the world. And what we need from you for this is we really want to have high visibility and high impact for this. So if you have any connections to high visibility people, we want to know about them. Get in touch with us. And if you have ideas for creative ways to maybe amplify the live stream, amplify the broadcast, also let us know that. Okay, so I think this is one of the last slides. If you want to stay informed with everything that EPO is doing to prepare for First Light, again, the two links that you should remember are rubinobservatory.org and ls.st/resources, and keep checking back to that resources link. We'll be adding to it over the coming weeks and months. And if you want to get involved, or if you intend to do outreach about Rubin and LSST in the coming weeks, months leading up to First Light, we want to know who is involved, who is doing events. So fill out our interest form, ls.st/I-love-outreach. And this is a different form than the one for speaking on the record. This is for more public outreach events, informal events. And filling out this form doesn't obligate you to do anything. We just want to know who is doing what. Okay. I think now it's time for discussion. This was the EPO discussion slide, but I think we can just open it up generally.
Hi, thank you very much, Stephanie. That was great. This is a really small thing. I tried to go to the interest form link, and it is only accessible to people with Gmail accounts. So I mean, me personally, I use Outlook, so I
Okay.
wouldn't be able to sign into it with my work email.
Okay, we'll fix that. Thank you. That same link will be active once we fix that.
Hi. So regarding social media, have you considered TikTok for Astro? You'd be surprised. People really, really enjoy like astronomy, and like I think TikTok's a good, I guess, like media for like information, because maybe like in YouTube, like people don't want to sit through like a really long video, and in TikTok, like people like that it's like quick and like just, I guess, like the TLDR. So I think that would be a good way to like reach people.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are not allowed to use TikTok because we are a government organization. But we do the Instagram and YouTube variations of that. And then also many of the creators that are high visibility creators are big on TikTok. So we can reach people kind of indirectly that way. But yeah, unfortunately, we are not allowed to use that platform.
Thanks very much. It was a great talk and really interesting to hear the other plans as well. So it's interesting that you're thinking of the Big Bash as a show, and we got a chance to chat about this the other night. But I wondered if you or any of the others involved with the planning could say something about what you're thinking about for the trailers in advance of that show.
That's a great question. If you have ideas, we'd love to hear them.
I was reminded of it when hearing the plans for using ComCam as the dry run, and just wondering what you were thinking of doing this autumn, this northern fall, in advance of the coming first.
Yeah, again, so the plans for the big online event are very much like in very, very, very early stages. But I do think that's a good point, that the kind of trailer lead up should maybe be part of the considerations and part of the content that we consider producing in advance of that.
Thank you very much for the talk. I have a very specific question. Right now, when I look for Rubin Observatory on Google, the first website that appears is lsst.org, and I'm wondering, why can we not redirect that to rubinobservatory.org? Because right now I enter that and it says, well, go to our new web page. Is it possible? I think it should be possible, but is there any concern with that?
Yeah, there is content on lsst.org that is not on rubinobservatory.org. Primarily the information for scientists has not been migrated. A lot of the sections that have been on lsst.org have been migrated, but not everything has been.
I'll just add that as long as construction is still going, we'll keep lsst.org going, because there's some very specific like monthly reporting information, milestones, etc., that we still keep updated on there. But ultimately, lsst.org will be redirected to rubinobservatory.org once we go into operations.
So I just want to echo that last question a little bit. I think it would be worth effort spending on search engine optimization, because currently we can do things like search who are the Rubin science collaborations, and we will actually get incorrect data because we haven't done anything with search engine optimization in years, and it's getting really bad at this point.
Yeah, so I will say on the EPO side, we do have effort earmarked in the coming months for SEO. Yeah. If you have any discussion about the points that are currently on screen or anything else, it doesn't just have to be questions. You can contribute.
Hi, I'm a student at Wayne State University, and I've been working on public outreach to inner city kids in Detroit, Michigan, kindergarten through high school. And I was wondering if that would be an audience you guys are interested in reaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
Definitely.
yeah, I'd love to have an event with them.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have a slide in a couple minutes about how you can contact us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Um, I've seen other collaborations using social media and they use a lot of mascots and animals. Are we thinking of having one? And if we have, can we have a chinchilla?
I'm not opposed to that, to be honest. Okay, so maybe a direct question to you all. What resources could we provide for you that you haven't found that would be helpful for you in your outreach efforts?
This might already exist, but I do a lot of outreach events with science museums and K through 12 also. They always need something to take with them, like stickers or lithographs or something. So even if it's not of first light images, it could be telescope stuff or even just little pieces of the telescope that you can show, just so they have something tactile to touch, look at, remember Rubin.
This is perhaps a little bit more on the specialized side, but some of our institutions do have access to planetaria. So if you were to put together a show that could be that could be placed onto a big dome, then we can include that in any time that we're offering planetarium shows.
Yeah, so at that resources link, we do have some videos that are formatted for Planetaria about different science topics. They aren't put together as a complete show. That's not something that our team has focused on, at least in terms of putting together a complete show, but there are videos with suggested scripts for, I think, 8 or 12 different science areas that Rubin will cover.
Thank you.
So circling back to the map that you showed where you wanted to engage the nationwide and possibly worldwide audience, I wonder what kind of support that your EPO team will be able to provide to all the in-person events. So that's probably related to the question before. Say if we were to have a public lecture, if we were to have a science fair or like astronomy fair and really want to highlight Rubin as part of our event, are you expecting sort of the people and scientists sort of doing that and creating context on their own, or are there some centralized repository, at least say hands-on activities, slide decks that we are able to utilize?
I would say if that is something that would be desired, let us know. We will have content that you can include in slides. But if a dedicated slide deck, like a plug and play kind of slide deck would be useful, I think that might be something that we can talk about. I don't know if anyone else on EPO has anything to say about that as well. So that leads in nicely to this. So concrete suggestions from you all of things that you want to support your outreach efforts that you haven't been able to find. This is your space to do that. If you have concrete suggestions or requests, we will. I won't say we will commit to all of them, but we will certainly look through and see what we can provide. Mascot. Okay, who wants to be part of the mascot development team? Oh, Lego. Stay tuned for that. Okay, I think if I move off of this page, it should still stay active. Let me know if it goes away or if you can still keep adding things. So if you want to contact EPO, you can email us, epo-feedback@lsst.org. Join our Slack channel, which is just #EPO on the LSSTC Slack. We are going to start using that a lot more to provide you with updates on the things that we're working on, the resources that we have for you. So if you want to stay up to date with outreach related resources, make sure to join that channel. You can also use the contact form in the footer of our website, rubinobservatory.org, or you can find one of us to talk to before the end of the week. Okay, that is the end of the EPO slides, and I will hand it back to Ranpal.
I think it's a wrap. This is just a summary of the 2 areas that we presented where you can fill in a form to express your interest. One is for being media facing contact. We would reach out to you, refer you to interview requests on the record. And the other one is just if you love doing outreach and you want to tell us about it. If anybody has any more questions, otherwise I think it's the end of the presentation for today. Thanks a lot.